everyone, my name is Gabrielle and today we're going to be going through the predictions for the 2024 geography exam. So just a quick disclaimer before we get started, although we worked with expert teachers to create these predictions, nothing is guaranteed in the exam and so you should take everything with a grain of salt. That being said, if you stick through this video, you will be well prepared for any surprises that will come up on the day of your exam because we will be going through loads of tips and tricks for actually doing the exam. So let's get started. Firstly, the short questions. I think this goes without saying that even though you only need to do 10 questions in this section, you should do all 12. This is because your top 10 will be counted. So what should you expect to see in the short questions? Firstly, weather maps come up every single year, and you can also expect to see some questions on aerial photographs and OS maps. And then you'd quite often see questions asking you to match up pictures or diagrams to surface landforms. And in this section of the paper, you might see up to 2 regional questions because these haven't come up in the last couple of years, according to our expert teachers anyways. To prepare for this part of the exam, I'd really recommend for you guys to check out Studyclix quizzes and Studyclix flashcards. You should check out the quizzes because they are based on past exam paper questions and they are a lot easier to go through and they're a lot quicker than just doing past exam paper questions. And they are especially useful if you've already gone through all of the short questions that have come up in the previous years. Our flashcards for geography are also really useful because they'll save you loads of time from making your own. By the way, throughout this video, we will be going through loads of resources for studying geography and absolutely everything will be linked below. So to make finding this list of resources much easier in the future, be sure to leave a like on this video so that you can find it easily when you're revising your geography. So moving on from the short questions, what do you need to know about the long questions? Starting off with physical geography, igneous rocks came up last year and so this year you really need to know your sedimentary and your metamorphic rocks. However, igneous rocks still have a chance of coming up again, so don't completely ignore that. Also, isostatic processes and folding faulting hasn't come up in recent years, and so those topics are worth going over. Moving on to regional geography, you almost always have a question that asks you to draw a sketch map of an Irish region, a European region, or a continental subcontinental region. I will be the first to admit that the sketch maps can be a little bit of a pain to revise. However, you can really maximize your marks in this section by practicing them and making sure everything is labeled correctly. Alongside that, we predict that you will be asked about primary economic activities in a European or a continental subcontinental region, and then secondary economic activities and population distribution in a subcontinental region, and then tertiary activities in an Irish or a European region. What I did to study the section was actually take 3 A4 sheets of paper and then divide them all into 3 parts. There I wrote out all of my primary, secondary and tertiary activities for Ireland, my European region and my subcontinental region. Having these 3 A4 sheets of paper were so useful to look over before my exams, and doing this can really help to maximize your marks in the exam for the section. And so, moving on to the human elective. Here you can expect a question asking you to explain what overpopulation is, alongside describing 2 causes and 2 effects. And then you might also see a question on historical settlement, which is basically naming and describing 3 phases of historical settlement, and then you might need to give a grid of reference from the OS map. And then you might also be asked about the impact of rural to urban migration on donor and receiver regions. But keep in mind that you can also just be asked on the impact of rural areas. And then for the 20-mark questions that come in this section of the paper, you are likely to be asked to draw a graph or to interpret some statistics. Then for the Geoecology option, which is the most popular option taken by students in Ireland, you can expect to see the characteristics of a biome, human interaction with soil, and also how soil development is influenced by air, mineral matter, and so on. So with regards to actually studying the long questions, the absolute best resource that I've ever found was actually Studyclix's annotated sample answers. The reason why these are so much more effective than regular sample answers, these sample answers basically break down exactly why a H1 standard answer is a H1 standard answer. And the expert teacher comments are so useful for kind of guiding you in the right direction to make sure that you are answering your questions correctly. These are so useful to look over for inspiration for what you can write in your own answers answers, but also for seeing what is a H1 standard answer so that you can do your best to write questions in that same format and hopefully get as many marks as possible. So if I was studying for the Leaving Cert Geography exam all over again, at this point I'd be really focusing on past exam paper questions, which are all categorized into neat topics on the Studyclix site, but also I'd be reading through these annotated sample essays to take inspiration for my own essays and for my own answers. And by the way, if you are still struggling with studying geography, then you should check out our H1 geography guide here on YouTube. In this video, I basically break down all of my best exam techniques and all of my study tips for getting top marks in the subject. By the way, if you found this video useful, please be sure to leave a like for more videos like this. You can even comment what subject we should cover next, and subscribe so that you don't miss all of our next videos. I hope this helps, and best of luck with the study.